Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So in this video, we're going to learn how to configure SSH on a Cisco router. Okay, so you can remember the previous video, we learned how to configure telnet on a Cisco router, and I will open Google spreadsheet and let you know that today we're in the last part of number 3. Okay, all right, configure SSH. Okay, all right, so I'll open without any further ado, I'll open Google Notepad, and I let few steps that we're going to follow to achieve this objective. The first step is always drawing the topology, decorate and comment. Second step, configure IP address to the router and the PCs. Make sure to configure default gateway on the computers. So we're going to use this network here to configure the router and the PCs. And before that, guys, I was forgetting, what is SSH and what is the difference between SSH and telnet. So SSH means, in full, means secure shell. Okay, it's a protocol that is used to securely log into the devices remotely. So the difference between SSH and telnet is that in telnet, the data or the traffic or the communication is not secure or is not encrypted, but in SSH it's encrypted and you cannot read the content of the communication. Okay, all right, but in telnet, if you're using tools like Wireshark to analyze the communication, you will be able to read everything. Okay, so let's configure the secure version of remote access protocol. Okay, all right, so the first step, as we've said, IP addressing. Okay, so let's go to this router and configure IP address to this interface. This interface is a gig 00, and the first thing to do to it is still in a shutdown state. So let's turn it up. So we go here and say no and say enable config T. Just a minute, config T. Okay, then say interface gig 0/0 no shut. Turn it up. You can see it has turned green now, right? Then assign it IP address. We are going to use this network to assign IP addresses to the devices. Okay, so just say IP add to be 192.168.10.1. let it take the first IP address in that subnet. Okay, third mask of 255.255.255.0 and you hit enter. Exit. All right, then to the computers. So I'll go to this computer, come to desktop, IP configuration and 192.168.10. Let's start from .5. Okay, I'll copy that, and the default gateway of this LAN here should be the IP address to the connecting router's interface. IP address of this one. Okay, default gateway is like the door. If you want to get out, you have to use the door. A room without any window, you can only use the door to get outside. Okay, all right, so for you to get outside, you must use this one as your door. Okay, all right, okay, so I come here and say default gateway will be 10.1. then finally I come here and make this one .6 and the default gateway to be 10.1, right? Okay, so the second step says, the third step says test ping between the switch, the computers and the router. So I try to ping 10.1. You see, it's pinging. That's all we needed. That's all. All right, so go to the fourth step, which says configure hostname, enable password, domain name, username and password on the routers. Okay, these are the parameters that are required for us to remotely log into any device, okay, using telnet or SSH. So let's start with hostname, then enable password, domain name, then finally username and password. Okay, so we go here and configure hostname to be, let's say, R1 SSH. Okay, then enable password. Enable password is used to protect the privilege exec mode. Okay, enable password to be, I always like using Cisco, lowercase, okay. Then IP domain name, very important, because you are managing device under your domain. For example, google.com, cisco.com, anything, facebook.com, things like that. So just say IP domain name to be cisco.com. I'll just use cisco.com, okay. All right. Then finally we need to include username and password, because you cannot log into any device without a username and password. So just say username, use admin, then password I'll use Cisco, lowercase, okay. All right. So these are very important during remote access, okay. All right. So number 5, generate crypto keys using RSA with a key length of 1024. Guys, as we said, SSH is a secure version that is used to remotely log into devices and manage them. So for that to be secure, then there must be some aspect of encryption. And which kind of encryption are we going to use here? It's asymmetric. Asymmetric using which algorithm? RSA, okay. So we have to provide the keys that will provide that kind of encryption to the data or the communication content, okay. How do we generate crypto keys? We just say crypto key generate RSA, then you can query what to write or just hit enter, okay. You can just hit enter, okay, and you will be asked how many bits in the modulus length. We've been asked here to use 1024 length, okay. So just say 1024 and you hit enter, right? And now you can see SSH enabled, okay. All right, so let's proceed. Log into a line VTY and make it use local database for authentication, and finally allow only SSH. So there's something very important here. We log into line VTY 0 to 15. It's line VTY that we're going to use to remotely access the devices, okay. All right, so we have to make it to use the local database. So what's the content of the local? Use the local database for authentication. Remember, we have already configured a username and password here. So this is what we're going to use, the local database. So we just tell this line that use local login to use local database, and that's all. Then we finally allow only SSH. How do we allow only SSH? Very simple. Just say transport input SSH and you hit enter. Exit. That's all. And number 7, enable SSH version 2. How do we enable SSH version 2? Just say IP SSH version 2 and you hit enter. Oh, version 2 and you hit enter. And finally, we're being asked to test SSH using this command, SSH-L. This is not 1, this is not I, this is L-L, then that username that we configured, and the IP address of the router. Very simple. So I go to this computer here, come to command prompt and say SSH-L, and then the username that we configured and the IP address of the router's interface. Okay. All right. Then I hit enter. You can see I'm being asked password. It was Cisco, and we are now in R1 SSH. Enable. Password was Cisco. Enable password, and then config T. And we can even change host name from here. Host name to be, let's say, PC1 R1 SSH. Okay. All right. So even if you try from this switch here, from this computer, I mean, and we say SSH-L and then admin, the IP address was 10.192.168.10.1, and we hit enter. Password was Cisco, and now, oh sorry, I'll try to log in again. Password is Cisco, and now you can see I'm in PC1 R1 SSH. Okay. All right, so thank you so much, guys. I believe this video has really helped you now to configure SSH, and I'll mark that number 3 as done. So I believe when we meet next, we'll be able to cover interVLAN routing both on the router and layer 3 switch. Okay, so thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share with friends, and drop a comment below. Thank you so much, and let's see you again in the next class. Bye.